can I convince my sons that living here would be good for all concerned? They say I'm better off in my house, that I can hire help with the house, and also if I need a caregiver.
It's a good question. And my thoughts when I look back, now if my mom were alone, how good would this be? You could have a caregiver come in, but who could talk to her in a caregiving way about what it's like to be a widow, what it's like to be at this age of life? So I think that what to me is this sense of community, and that she has people here. And we've talked often since my dad died in November, how miserable would this be if she were sitting and living alone at home? I also know that she still would be, my parents had a circular driveway in front. They still had to be responsible. Sometimes the truck driver wouldn't come to plow the snow away. They were burglarized twice. Do I need to worry about them being burglarized when she's home alone as a widow? It was just so much hassle, making sure the leaves got raked. It was too much as she got older to try to handle all of this. So I would say this is better. When I've seen my mom live here, it's better for her. I'm going to tell a story. When they first moved here, I came for dinner, my wife, we came for dinner and we ordered from the menu in the main dining room. And I picked up the fork, and my dad said, John, before you start eating, I'd like you to put your fork down and don't pick it up until you say thank you. I said, thank you? For what? For that we are living here and we're never going to be a burden on you, because maybe we couldn't take care of the house by ourselves, and then we've checkmated ourselves, because if you get sick before you move here, now your options are limited and you cannot move here. So if they had waited till his macular degeneration got worse. So I said, well, Dad, I thank you. You're never going to be a burden. Thank you. I picked my fork up the second time. He said, just a moment. Don't pick that up until you say thank you again. I said, now what for? He said, we had the estate sale. Like Pauline is saying, they sold all the things at their house. They gave it away, sold it. They had a garage sale. My family, my sisters and I didn't have to spend time having the estate sale we would have had to have after they died. He thought we should be thankful for that. Well, we were. Thanks, Dad. I picked up the fork third time. Up. Not yet, John. Put that fork down. I said, now what? He said, the third thing is, because we're here, and we know what the cost of being here is going to be, and if we need nursing home in the future, you know how expensive that would be if we didn't have this covered and programmed? Be thankful that your mom and I are not using the inheritance that you and your two sisters will get, because we've spent it all in the last few months or years on nursing home care. Your inheritance will be bigger. I said, thank you, Dad. Now, and I really meant it. And he wanted to clarify what was the advantage for adult children having their parents in Lexington Square. And that summarizes, I think, why, as adult children, we were thankful. My parents both lived here. They were married. Last Sunday would have been their 67th wedding anniversary. And when they decided to move here just about 10 years ago, my dad said that in their, at that time, 60-plus years of marriage, the biggest argument they ever had was whether they should move out of their home. They built a home in Oak Brook. It was a beautiful home. My mom decorated it. Christmas we had there, Thanksgiving. She said, where are we going to have our Thanksgiving dinners if we don't have it in our home? But my dad said, we need to think about the future and prepare, so we are going to look, and they looked at a number of places. But they too felt overall this was really the package, and they decided to move to Lexington. And at the time, as I have two younger sisters, and we too felt we didn't want them to leave the house in Oak Brook. We loved it, but we knew that they were not going to get younger as they went along. So when they finally moved, we were thankful. And if I can elaborate, I have a sister who lives in Tucson, and I talked to her and said, I'm going to be giving this talk today. What thoughts do you have? You're living in Tucson with your husband and 3 children. What about them being in Lexington? What does it mean to you? And she said, I am so glad that Mom is at Lexington, because when she is in Tucson and she sees the weather report this year and knows her mother does not have to go out to get milk, doesn't have to do anything, can just stay inside, she said this gives her real peace of mind. And there's more than that. She said, I feel she could otherwise feel guilty. My wife and I live in Oak Park. If we were taking care of Mom and had to do all the work, she would feel guilty that she's down there and we're up here having to do all the, for whatever caregiving we have to give. So she said this was a great thing for her, because she doesn't have to feel that she's not doing her part, because there's not much part to do. We're all, my folks are here.
As I listen to you as a family member, it's an interesting perspective I also think of, that my parents moved into a retirement community in 1984 and proceeded to live in a retirement community almost 20-some years. And they're now both deceased, but my two sisters and I always stated it was one of the best gifts our parents gave to us, because we did not have that guilt you mentioned. We did not have to be concerned of them, and they made that decision themselves.
The biggest benefit, and I see this really as living in Lexington, is 3 stages: independent and assisted living or nursing home if they need it in the future. But the biggest benefit is they moved into this. Now they're independent living still, but it's supervised. It has allowed independent living for me and my wife. We're independent. We don't have to feel guilty if we go on vacation. And our friends whose parents are still living at home, they tell us they are looking at the calendar when they're on vacation. Sometimes the daughters are looking at their watches, what's happening at home. They feel they cannot go far away, and they can enjoy it when they go far away. So this has been independent living for my wife and myself, that we don't need to be concerned because they're here. And then the second best benefit Mr. Iverson mentioned was having this nurse on duty. My dad had a stroke on October 31st. My mom pushed the button on the phone, and the nurse was up here. She said, "This man has had a stroke. We're calling the paramedics." Well, this is a big thing. How would she know what's a stroke, or how would I know this? So the paramedics took him to the hospital. So having that nurse on duty was very helpful. And the third thing of the big benefits is I am comforted knowing that my mom has friends here. I'm a different generation, and I'm younger. When my dad died in November, there's no way that I could relate, I try to relate to the loneliness that she would feel after 66 years of marriage. But how can I even go into relating to this? Well, then she goes to dinner with the people, her friends, who are widows, who even this year lost their husbands. So